Hello and welcome back. This is my first video after the Christmas holiday, so we're into January, so there's no backdrop because it's January. I'll be doing a couple of short videos over the next week and a half really. I'm just going to do some short videos just to get back into it. I'm just building back up my energy levels as I go through making videos. You'll have seen videos I made with my cousin James, the two idiots talking. One's up and one's going to be up next week, so there are stuff coming up, and I'll be going back to the videos of Solitary Rodent soon as well. Again, we need to get started up just because it's January. I mean, anyone watching this knows the explanation of it's January. Last year I'd probably started in January as well. It's just January just drags you down. It really demotivates you intensely. Yeah, I'm going to start with a highbrow film called Harakiri by Kobayashi, who directed Qui-Gon and The Human Condition, which I still haven't watched. The Human Condition, I'll get to it. It was one of my vows for January, and then it became January, like 9-hour film. No, it's not going to happen. But I watched this instead. This is a very good film. This actually is a masterpiece. SGS Films just did a video of it over the holidays, Christmas holidays, which I'll drop up a link into in the description of this video. It's a very good video, so I highly recommend it. It'll make up for how garbage this video probably ended up being, but so Harakiri is a Japanese word for suicide. Basically, it's ritual suicide, and this film was set during a period where there's a lot of peace within the different clans and different families. So a lot of the samurai are out of work. There's nothing for them, no work for them. There's no fighting going on. They just don't have anything to do with their time. And when a house falls, the people from that house, a lot of the time, other houses would take on the good warriors from the house who survived for the house because we're good. In this case, because it's a time of peace, that won't happen. So there's lots of samurai going around the districts without work and have to find new type of work, and they're called Ronin, as you would know from the film Ronin. And any Japanese and if you've known about the samurai, you know about Ronin. Basically, a lot of them feel the need to essentially be dignified and don't go begging, so they find other things to do with their time. I mean, the main character here tries that, and other people he knows tries that because their master's house collapsed. It's all about dignity. It's like the dignity you go through trying to live a life using what you have and what morals you were given, really. That's the kind of theme of the film. The actual story starts with our central character going to a house, like a clan house, the big clan of the area, and asking if he can commit a ritual suicide on their grounds, because he's basically, he has no future. He's barely making a living, and it's a dignified way out to commit ritual suicide because his initial clan has collapsed. Now, at this point, they get suspicious because there's lots of other people coming to do that, and because the clans don't want this to keep going, because they think it's they just don't want that on their grounds. They tend to pay off people to samurai to go somewhere else and do it, because they don't want it on their grounds. They don't want to deal with the body and stuff like that. And it's become kind of a scam that ex-samurai, that Ronins can do. And so they're very suspicious. They're asking this guy questions, and he's answering the questions. And then they tell him a story of another guy who'd come a few months before, and who they knew was doing scam, and who they treated horribly, and who they made commit suicide on their grounds with a dull blade. And as the story goes on, we find complications within what the central character wants, what the people in the house did in the past, and it's a much more complicated story than the initial setup suggests. I'm going to talk about it without spoilers for now, and then I'll go into spoilers, really. Now, the film is an actual masterpiece. It is so well done, it's so well paced. The first half's the mystery. You're getting all these scenes, you try to place together what's going on. Like, you know there's something been hidden by both sides, and you know it's almost like something below a cover or something you can't see that's really important, and both sides try to work out what the other person wants, and no one's quite sure what the other person wants, and it's very difficult to, you're putting it all together. And then the second half of the film, the revelations start to get made of what's happening, what's really going on, and what's the focus of the story. And the focus of the story is, how do you survive when your world's collapsed? How do you survive when there is no future, there is no hope of a future, there is no potential for dignity because the world is cruel, there's no potential for dignity because the people in it are cruel, and even though they say they're dignified, they're not actually living up to their stated intent. And that's what the film's about. How do you survive that? Do you actually collapse and be weak and try and pull a scam, or do you follow through with your intentions despite any temptation to be to fudge your morals a little bit? Do you do that, or do you stick to it, or is there a middle ground where it's inevitable you have to break some of your moral codes for other people? And it becomes a story about the various areas of grey within that, because there's not one simple solution. Even as the story progresses, it's not like the perceived villains are the most awful people ever, and it's not like the main character is the most soulful, person. He's a person who makes no mistakes. He makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And are the mistakes, can you justify blame other people for mistakes, or do you have to put them on yourself? And that film asks those questions: is it you, or is it the other people? And is blaming other people for what's happened to you the proper way, or is it a psychopathic solution to your problems? And it doesn't come down to any answer. It's like, it's showing you questions, showing you complications, and showing you further complications, and you're left with a morass of ideas that you may have your own opinion on, of where you stand, but it's not telling you this is the right way, this is the way you should perceive this film. It's very complicated. And the film within that has some great performances. The lead actor is amazing, the supporting cast is amazing, like the various people we see in various flashbacks, all those performances are very naturalistic, very detailed. No one's showing off. If someone shows off, it's a character showing off, not the actor. The perceived villains actually have nuance as well. They're not just all bad. There are a few of them who do things you very much disagree with, but you can see where they're coming from. So the performances are terrific, the script's terrific, because everything's placed carefully so that you're always understanding what's going on. The bric-a-brac's of its importance, and then as the story goes on you find out more details about what you've seen, and it adds more emotion and more depth to everything you've seen, and it builds and builds and builds to something that's very emotional as you're going through it. But it doesn't go through into emotion. It allows the emotions to be strong and very forceful, but also doesn't go into the emotions completely, so that's the thing obscuring everything. It's still making you ask the questions, is what these people are doing right? Yeah, even your heroes, are what they're doing right? You may be sympathetic towards them, but are they right with certain things? And it doesn't answer the questions. It just asks the questions, and you have to come to your own conclusions. And it's pretty cynical about the social order in Japan and how it functions and the hypocrisies involved. But it doesn't do it in a snarky way. It's like, it shows it's human beings making these decisions. It's showing it's a hierarchy that people are just trying to survive within, and it creates imperfect solutions to difficult situations, and and people are trying to figure out the best compromise within a situation. It's not like they're trying to be malicious. Once or twice they are, but people just get fed up and be malicious because they're sick of a situation. And there are individual people who try to manipulate the situation for themselves. But you know, it's not like you've got good guys and bad guys. You've just got people who are very flawed and going through difficult situations. Okay, that's as far as I can go without spoilers. So the spoiler really is explaining the plot, and the plot really is, it's about the main character who comes to commit suicide in the gardens. It turns out his son-in-law was the kid who initially came and initially had to kill him, was forced into suicide, even though he's trying to pull the con to get some money. That was his son-in-law. The reason the guy was doing that was because his child was sick and needed medicine, and they didn't have any money because they were a poor family, because they had accepted their law of, they were a great family, times moved on, the family they were with collapsed, they had to make a living doing something else, they struggled to make a living. But when the child got sick and the mother was sick, it was like they needed medicine, they couldn't afford it. So he tried this thing, it went wrong, and then after he died, the child died, and his wife died, who was a daughter of the main character. So this guy's family just collapses. It's like there was four of them, and suddenly it was just him himself. And it's a tragedy, and it's one of the most brutal scenes in film. It is so tragic because it's built and built and built, and you've seen him and the son-in-law talk about why they would never do this thing, the fake suicide, because a stain in your honour. But when it comes to the case of he needs the money for a sick child, it's like he's willing to give up his honour, the son-in-law's willing to give up his honour just to make the child live. And it turns out he was a samurai, but he had to sell his swords for food. So he had these fake swords which he didn't kill himself with. And it turns out he was in love with the lead character's daughter, and the lead character ensured they came together, even though it meant that his daughter had probably less chance of having a easier life, because he did not want her to become a prostitute, basically. So he wanted her to live a dignified life, so she lived a dignified life with a person he thought was a good man. But by living that hard life, because she wasn't the wellest person, she was always a little ill, it ended up dooming her anyway. There was no simple solution to that. He did the best he could, and the son-in-law always felt like she was too good for him, and that created tensions with him. So when everything goes wrong and everything builds and builds to this moment and everyone dies, you can see everyone's point of view. You can also see the rage in the lead character, because he did everything he possibly can to keep everyone's dignity, to keep everyone's sense of reality, to make sure everyone lives as good a life as possible. And it's failed. It's just completely backfired on him. He just cannot get out of this mess. And he just tries his best, and it just always fails. So he goes to the place, and instead of just going to kill them all, he wants them to know what they've done by making this guy kill himself intentionally. So he's actually, as you go through, you realise he's found out who were the conspirators who caused his son-in-law's death. He hasn't killed them, he's taken away the hair at the back, which is a signifier of their social status. He's beaten them in back, cut them off so they can't actually go back into court without the piece of the ponytails that would actually signify they are the masters of that house. So he's completely ruined his social status. So by the time he goes into the house, there's no master defenders. He's already defeated them all. So when he finally goes against the master of the house, even though he knows it's a suicide mission, and even though he knows he won't probably succeed, he's caused so much havoc to this household that they can never really survive, because they've lost all their champions, which is a very important part of Japanese culture. They're going to have to cover up what happened. They're going to have to say that all these people committed suicide rather than, because one of them did but the other two haven't, but he's telling them, the master tells them they have to commit suicide because they've been dishonoured. So it becomes a thing about how important is honour. Is honour more important than life? Or because that's the thing that's dragging these houses down, it's causing all these problems. Like a lot of these samurai have lost their honour and are now roading, trying to find a way to get at least a little bit of money. So it's all about honour and how do you define yourself as honourable, and how these social systems come up and create this honour system. It's also how it limits you, because people have to give up their lives for honour, and they have to decide whether they give up their dignity for honour. It's actually a social system that's pulling everyone down, as well as something that keeps the standards high. So it's a double-edged sword. But the film questions the weight of honour, the weight of what it does to people. And I mean, in some ways it elevates some structure of people's lives, but also it destroys lives if you let it go too far. And it creates a lack of human dignity within the human being. So it becomes a hierarchy of how people are seen. Because this man who, his house fell through no fault of his own, he can take out anybody, but he can't find work because his honour was stained because his master was defeated. But it's through no fault of his, and his whole family collapses because of that. And eventually his reaction to his family dying is to get revenge on the people who dishonoured them and dishonoured him in his eyes. But is that the actual proper reaction? Is what the film actually asks, because yeah, it's the emotional reaction, but it's going against what he defined as his honour system. But is that honour system even worth it? How is it worthwhile and how is it not worthwhile? And it becomes this muddy ground. It's like, it's something that's defined their lives, but it's something that also destroys their lives. So it's a very complicated system, and it's like looking back in Japan and looking at how it deals with honour and deals with its hierarchies, and how they limit people as well as give structure to people. And this is the most extreme version of it, where it ends up in a massacre where everybody basically either dies or is destroyed by the honour system. And it's just a wonderful film, and it's just ambiguous about how you perceive everything you see, because there are no villains. Even the villains, they were put in a bad situation because the samurai were wandering around in this time of peace, and they can't afford to deal with them all the time, so they either pay them off or they go through the suicide thing. And yeah, they behave badly and they behave proudly and they're smug, and they end up causing a horrible murder of this poor guy who's trying to save his child. But they don't know he's trying to save his child. To them, he's just someone that's a chancer. They don't even know he's a samurai or not. So it's a bad situation. They are guilty, but they're not. They're part of a problem of a system that hasn't really reformed. And it's never going to fully reform. It's just going to evolve into another Japanese system as it goes. So it's a film about the Japanese character and Japanese traditions, using the metaphor of the samurai, and how do you define honour, how do you define how honour affects people and how it affects their lives. So you see that going on in life even now. It's something that's always, it's using different words, but people are still very much, not even in Japan, it's like, how do you live your life, how your morals is something that's important to a lot of people in life. And this film looks at how it can be perverted and twisted and can cause just absolute horror. So this is a masterpiece. This is a full-on masterpiece. This is one you have to see. I'd highly recommend it. Master Cinema have a release of it that's beautiful. I'd seen the film years ago, but I only half remember when I watched it because I'd seen it when I was like 16 or something, so it was wonderful to rewatch, and because I remember bits of it but not all of it, and it was just it's just a wonderful, wonderful film. It's just amazing, so just watch it. So watch it, watch SJS's video on it as well. I hope you enjoyed this, my first video back, and I'll be back soon with another video. Right, bye for now.